her. I trusted every word she said, and it cost me everything. My name is not important. What matters is that I am 67 years old. I live in a semi-detached on Elmwood Crescent in Kitchener, Ontario, and 3 weeks ago I buried my wife of 41 years. Her name was June. She liked Earl Grey tea, hated the snow, and every single morning she would hum the same 3 bars of an old Anne Murray song while she waited for the kettle to boil. I never told her how much I loved that sound. I should have. June passed on a Tuesday night. The official cause was cardiac arrest in her sleep. She had been sick for almost 2 years, a slow, grinding kind of sick that took pieces of her one at a time. Toward the end, she needed full-time care, more than I could give on my own. That was when my daughter arranged for a home care worker to come in during the day. Her name was Pam. Pam Weston. She was quiet, competent, and June liked her, which was enough for me. The one who arranged all of it was my daughter Renata, not from the list. I am using Renata. Wait, I need to stop. Let me begin again. I trusted her. I trusted every single word she told me, and I am still not sure I will ever forgive myself for that. My wife, June, passed away on a Tuesday in February. 41 years we were married. She was the kind of woman who remembered everyone's birthday, kept a running list of things she wanted to tell me, and made the best butter tart you have ever eaten in your life. She was from Guelph originally. She loved the Leafs, even though they broke her heart every spring, and she never stopped believing they would win it. That was June. She was stubborn in the best possible way. The last 2 years were hard. She had a progressive condition that affected her mobility and her memory in waves. Some days she was completely herself, sharp and funny, and asking me why I had not repainted the garage yet. Other days she did not quite know where she was. We managed, the two of us, for a long time, but eventually I had to admit I needed help. My son suggested we look into home care. He called around, did the research, and found a woman through a private agency, a personal support worker named Gloria Tran. She came 5 days a week, 9 to 4, and within 2 weeks, June had decided she was wonderful. That was good enough for me. Gloria had worked in home care for 11 years. She was calm, she knew what she was doing, and she treated June with a kind of dignity that I did not take for granted. I was retired. I was home most of the time, but there were errands to run, appointments to keep, and it helped to know June was in safe hands while I was out. My son's name is Nathan. He is 38 years old. He lives 20 minutes away in Cambridge, and for most of his adult life I have made excuses for him. He had a rough patch in his 20s, a bad marriage, some debt, a stretch of unemployment that went on longer than it should have. His mother always said he just needed time. I believed her because I wanted to. By the time June passed, Nathan was living off what I can only describe as a patchwork, some contract work here and there, money borrowed from friends, and a monthly transfer from my account that I had been making quietly for almost 3 years. I told myself it was temporary. June did not know about it. I did not want to worry her. The night June died, Nathan was the one who called the funeral home. He handled everything. I was in no state to do anything except sit in the kitchen and stare at the kettle. He made the arrangements, contacted the relatives, put together the obituary. I was grateful. I told him so. 4 days after the funeral, he came to me in the living room with a look on his face I had not seen before. Controlled, measured, like he had practiced what he was going to say. He said, "Dad, I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear me out before you react." I put down my coffee. He told me that while I had been handling June's final weeks, something had been happening with the household finances. He said he had gone through the account statements. He had my online banking information because I had given it to him 2 years earlier, when my eyesight was giving me trouble, and I needed help tracking expenses. He said he had noticed transfers that he could not account for. Small amounts, nothing dramatic, but consistent. $50 here, $80 there, occasionally $120. He said they traced back to Gloria. I sat very still. I asked him to repeat what he had said. He repeated it. He said Gloria had likely used her proximity to the household, her access to our routines, our mail, possibly a card she had seen me use, to skim money over the course of her time with us. He said he had not wanted to say anything while June was still alive because the stress would have been too much. He said he was sorry he had waited. I remember the feeling that came over me. It was not anger, not right away. It was something colder, a kind of collapse. Because I had trusted Gloria. Because June had trusted Gloria. And if this was true, then someone had been stealing from us while my wife was dying in the next room. I asked Nathan if he was certain. He showed me a printed spreadsheet, dates, amounts, a running total he had calculated. He said he had cross-referenced with what I had given him verbal authorization to transfer each month, and these were not those. He said the total came to just over $3,000 over 14 months. I called the non-emergency police line that afternoon. An officer came to the house 2 days later. I gave a statement. I told them about the spreadsheet Nathan had prepared. I told them about Gloria's access to our home and our routine. The officer said they would look into it. I want to say I hesitated. I want to say some part of me asked the right questions before things went further. But I did not. Nathan was my son. He had done the research. He had the numbers in front of me. And I was a man who had just buried his wife, and I had nothing left in me to push back with. Gloria was questioned. She denied everything. She was calm during the questioning, from what I was told, but the officer noted that she became emotional when she realized I had been the one to report her. The agency suspended her pending the investigation. Her other clients were notified. I heard later, through a neighbor, that Gloria had gone to stay with her sister in Waterloo, that she had stopped working entirely, that she had a daughter in high school. I told myself that was not my problem. I told myself I had done what anyone would do. I want to be honest with you about the next part because it matters. My neighbor across the street, his name is Hugh. He is a retired civil engineer, 72 years old, and he and I have been nodding acquaintances for 15 years. We have waved at each other from driveways. We have talked over the fence about ice storms and property taxes and the state of the leaves. We are not close friends, but we are the kind of neighbors who look out for each other without making a production of it. 11 days after June's funeral, Hugh knocked on my door. It was a Sunday evening. I had not been sleeping well, and I was in the kitchen making toast for dinner because I could not summon the energy for anything more. When I opened the door, Hugh was standing there in his jacket, with a look on his face that I recognized immediately. It was the look of a man who knows something and has been wrestling with whether to say it. He said, "I am sorry to bother you, Gordon, but I think you need to see something." His full name, by the way, is Hugh Dalrymple. He has lived across the street for 23 years. And in 23 years, he had never once knocked on my door uninvited. I let him in. He sat at the kitchen table, and he put a laptop in front of me. He said he had a security camera on his front porch, one of those wide-angle ones that captures the whole street, and that he had been meaning to mention it for years, but never quite got around to it. He said that after he heard what had happened, something nagged at him, so he went back through the footage. He said, "I want you to tell me what you see." I looked at the screen. The footage was time-stamped. I could see my own house clearly, the front walk, the driveway, the side gate that leads to the garage. He had queued it up to a date in November, a Tuesday. I scrolled through, and at first I did not see anything unusual. Then Hugh pointed. The side gate opened at 11:42 in the morning. A person came through. Not from the front, from the side, from the direction of the alley that runs behind the houses on our block. The figure moved quickly, shoulders forward, in the purposeful way of someone who did not want to be seen. They were inside the house for 14 minutes. Then they left the same way they came. I leaned closer. Hugh let me look. The person was not Gloria. It took me a moment because I did not want it to be true. I leaned even closer, and Hugh zoomed in, and there was no question. I recognized the jacket first. I had bought it for him 3 Christmases ago from the MEC store on King Street. A dark green shell, waterproof, with a small logo on the chest. It was Nathan. Hugh had footage of 7 separate visits over 3 months. 7 times my son had let himself into our home through the side gate, while June was resting and Gloria was on her lunch break. Always the same window of time, always 14 to 20 minutes, always through the gate. I could not speak for a long time. Hugh sat across from me and did not say anything either. He is a decent man. He understood that there was nothing to say. Eventually, I asked him if he had shown this to anyone else. He said no. He said he had come to me first because he thought I deserved to know before anyone else did. I asked him if he could send me the files. He said he already had them on a USB drive, and he set it on the table in front of me. I sat with it for 3 days. That is the part I am not proud of. 3 days. I kept picking up my phone and putting it down. I told myself I was processing. I told myself I needed to be sure. But I think the truth is that I already was sure, and I was trying to find a way to not be. On the 4th day, I called the police. Not the non-emergency line this time. I asked to speak with the officer who had taken my original statement. I told him I had new information. He came to the house that afternoon, and I showed him the USB drive. And I told him everything. The spreadsheet Nathan had prepared, the banking access I had given him, the monthly transfers, all of it. The officer was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Sir, I need to ask you something. Was Gloria Tran ever in your home unsupervised with access to your personal documents or banking cards?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. Gloria came in the morning. I was almost always home. She had never been to the office where I kept the filing cabinet. She did not know my PIN. I had never given her anything related to the accounts. The answer was no. There had been no mechanism by which Gloria could have done what Nathan said she had done. The spreadsheet Nathan showed me, I had never actually verified those figures independently. I had taken his word for it, because he was my son. What the investigation found over the following weeks was this. Nathan had been transferring money out of my account in small increments for 14 months, using the online banking access I had given him. He had constructed the spreadsheet himself to make the withdrawals look like they originated from someone else's activity. He had used Gloria's name because she was the most plausible candidate. She was in the house. She was a stranger to most of my family, and he calculated, correctly, that I would believe him over her. He had also, on 7 documented occasions, entered the house through the side gate to access my filing cabinet. The police found evidence he had been taking June's prescription medication records and my financial statements, likely to understand the full picture of the estate before June died. Nathan was arrested on a Wednesday morning. I was not home when it happened. My daughter-in-law, Nathan's ex-wife, with whom I have always been close, called me at my sister's house where I had been staying. She was very quiet on the phone. She said, "Gordon, I am so sorry. I had no idea." I believed her. Gloria Tran was cleared of all suspicion. The agency reinstated her. The officer who handled the case gave me her contact information and suggested I reach out. I waited 2 weeks, then I drove to Waterloo. I want to tell you that she was gracious about it. She was not. She was polite, because she is a polite person. But she was not gracious, and she should not have had to be. She had lost 2 weeks of work. Her other clients, Elderly people who had depended on her had been told their worker was under investigation. Her daughter had seen the stress in her face every morning at breakfast and had asked if they were going to be okay. She looked at me for a moment after I finished talking, and then she said, "Mr. Whitfield, I understood why you believed him. He is your son. But I want you to understand that what happened to me was not a small thing." I told her I understood. She said, "I do not think you do yet, but maybe you will." She was right. I am still understanding it. I have since transferred 3 months of her salary to her directly, not through the agency, personally for my own account. It is not enough. I know it is not enough. But I am also not a wealthy man, and I am trying to be practical about what I can actually do. I hired a financial advisor through my credit union to go through every account statement from the past 3 years. The total Nathan had moved out was just over $19,000. Some of that was the authorized transfers I had been making knowingly. The remainder, approximately $11,000, was taken without my knowledge or consent. The investigation is ongoing. Nathan has a legal aid lawyer. There will be a trial. I sold the car he used to drive for free when he visited. It was an old Civic I had been keeping in the garage. I do not know why I kept it so long. I suppose I was always expecting him to need it. I have not spoken to Nathan since the arrest. He has tried to call twice, from what I understand. Both times I did not pick up. I am not ready. I may never be ready, and I think that is allowed. The house on Elmwood Crescent feels very large now. June's reading chair is still by the window. I've not moved it. The kettle still boils at the same time every morning, even though I am the only one who hears it. What I keep returning to is not the money. It is the timing. Nathan came to me with that story 4 days after June's funeral. 4 days. He waited until I had buried my wife, until I was emptied out and barely functional. And then he sat down across from me and looked me in the eye and told me a lie designed to destroy an innocent woman's life. I think about what would have happened if Hugh had not had that camera. If he had not been the kind of man who goes back and checks when something nags at him. Gloria would likely have faced criminal charges. She would have lost her license to practice. Her daughter would have watched her mother prosecuted for something she did not do. And Nathan would have walked away with $19,000 and a father too, grief-stricken to ask the right questions. I did not ask the right questions. That is the thing I will carry the longest. Hugh and I have coffee now, on Saturdays when the weather allows. We sit in his kitchen, and he asks how the proceedings are going, and I tell him what I can. He never says I told you so, even though he would be entitled to. He is a good neighbor. I should have known him better all these years. If there is anything I want to say to you, to anyone watching this who has someone in their life they would do anything for, it is this: love is not the same as verification. You can love someone completely and still ask for the evidence. You can trust someone with your heart and still not hand them the keys to everything else. I did not know that distinction until it was too late, and it cost a woman I barely knew 2 of the worst weeks of her life. June would have known. She always said Nathan needed watching. I thought she was being hard on him. I thought mothers sometimes saw things in their children that were not really there. I should have listened. She was usually right. I went back to the house last week, and I sat in her chair by the window, and I watched the street for a while. Elmwood Crescent is quiet in March. The snow was almost gone. The neighbors were coming and going, carrying groceries, walking dogs, living their ordinary lives. It looked exactly the way it always has. And I thought, she was here every single day, just like this. And I did not pay enough attention. I am paying attention now. I have been sitting with this for weeks now, and the thing I keep coming back to is not what Nathan did. It is what I did not do. There is a version of events where I ask one careful question. Just one. Something as simple as, how exactly could Gloria have accessed the account? I had the information to answer that question myself. I knew she had never been near the filing cabinet. I knew she did not have the PIN. I knew the only person I had given online banking access to was Nathan. All of that was sitting right there in my own memory, and I did not reach for it. I reached for the story instead, because the story came from my son, and grief had made me too tired to be rigorous. I think about what that cost Gloria. 11 days of suspension. Her other clients, elderly people who needed her, being told she was under investigation. Her daughter watching her come home every evening not knowing if it was going to be okay. Gloria had spent 11 years building a career on the simple principle that she would show up, do the work, and treat people with dignity. In 2 days, that reputation was put in jeopardy because I did not stop to think clearly enough before I made a phone call. That is the part that keeps me up, not the money Nathan took. The money can be pursued through the courts. What was done to Gloria cannot be fully undone, no matter how many months' salary I transfer to her account. What Nathan did required a particular kind of moral failure, not a sudden one, but a slow and deliberate one. He had been making small choices over 3 years that moved him further and further from the person I had hoped he would be. Each transfer he took without asking, each lie he told himself about why it was acceptable, each time he looked at his aging parents and calculated rather than cared, those were not moments of weakness. They were choices, and choices made consistently enough become character. And I made choices too. Every month I sent him money without asking what it was for. Every time June said she worried about him, and I told her she was being too hard on him, I chose comfort over honesty. I chose the easier version of my son over the accurate one. That is not love. That is something closer to avoidance, and I dressed it up as loyalty for 38 years. What Hugh did, going back through the footage, wrestling with whether to say something, deciding that the truth mattered more than the awkwardness of knocking on a grieving man's door. That took something. It took a kind of quiet moral seriousness that I underestimated in him, because I had never needed it from him before. He did the right thing not because it was easy, or because anyone would have known if he had not. He did it because he decided that it was his responsibility to do it. That is the kind of person I want to be. I am not sure I have been. I am 67 years old, and I am learning things about myself that I should have understood at 40. The capacity to think clearly under pressure is not just an intellectual skill. It is something you have to practice and protect, especially when the people you love are the ones asking you to set it aside. The willingness to keep going after something like this, to deal with the legal process and the financial audit and the grief that sits underneath all of it without retreating, that takes a kind of endurance I'm still building. I am paying attention now. Late, yes, but I am paying attention.